Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielson and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Lock Shop, a Tuesday episode of The Lock Shop. Dustin Nielson and Hustler with you. The Lock Shop, as always, presented to you by our friends at Coolbet. Sign up for an account today. When you sign up, enter the bonus code LOCKSHOP, and your money will be 100% deposit on your initial deposit up to $200. There's Mr. Perfect for the week. Huss, how are you, buddy?
Dusty, I'm still mentally exhausted from the weekend. I mean, obviously, there was so much on the line personally. I mean, being a Chiefs fan, Chiefs futures, all that stuff, to add in the fact of being able to finally, for the first time over 2 weeks, actually get one on you and make it a bit closer. The parlays we hit, the partner parlay was in the mix. Maybe my best betting weekend ever. I mean, it was, I think, listen, 4-0 in the playoffs is 4-0 in the playoffs. And it's hard to believe, and this is credit to you, that after doing that, I'm 8-2 and still second place on the Lock Shop. Although with the confidence picks, I have a 1-point lead heading into it. And bottom line is, the two of us, we picked every game, 17-3 right now against the spread. Thoughts and prayers to Coolbet, because I know there's been many lock shoppers that have been taking some money from the book lately. So it's all good. But aside from the bets, dude, that weekend of football, I know we've said it over and over again, but I mean, that was the best weekend of football I can ever remember. I mean, exciting games.
You couldn't script it better, Huss. You couldn't script it better from the beginning. Like even the two games Saturday, great finishes. Like maybe not amazing games, great finishes, great storylines. Rodgers loses to the team that didn't draft him, yada yada yada. And then Sunday morning it gets blown out of the water, or Sunday early afternoon, and then the nightcap, which everybody goes, it's going to be the game of the year, going to be the game of the year. It was the game of the year. Like, are you kidding me?
It was the game of all time. I mean, and I said this yesterday on the program. I do have I feel for the Mafia right now. I feel for the Bills. I feel for Josh Allen. But I mean, these were the two most dangerous teams in the playoffs. I mean, I think you asked me on your show 2 weeks ago, what team makes you the most nervous? And it was the Buffalo Bills, because frankly of what we just saw. And for Josh Allen to go, 4 touchdowns, no picks, and lose, cruel sport. Now, for all the people that are bitching about the overtime rules, I mean, I get it. There's definitely there's a valid point to be made about the overtime rules, but where were you all 3 years ago when Pat Mahomes didn't get to touch the ball in the AFC Championship game against Tom Brady? I was at that game. I walked out of it like a zombie. Didn't say a word for 2 hours, going back to my buddy's place afterwards going, how did that happen? And it was very anticlimactic. This is the sort of game that may potentially get them to change the way they're doing it. Because right now, in this era of offensive football, the bottom line is, listen, the coin toss didn't lose the Bills the game. I mean, they needed to make a stop. They weren't able to do it. But the bottom line is right now, and I know we can use the regular season rules. Those are one thing. It's very different in the playoffs when you've got the best teams playing. The teams that won the toss are 10-1 in playoffs. So that to me tells us that it is too much of an advantage. That being said, no apologies. Chiefs are on to the AFC Championship game and are taking on the Bengals. Speaking of being scripted, what the hell were you thinking in the second half of that Rams-Bucks game? Because I was on the verge of a nervous breakdown, and it did seem like, I mean, that was more scripted than the WWE, it seemed. I mean, the Rams, I've never seen a team that can look so good for so long. And this was the same damn thing in Week 18 against the Niners. They looked like world beaters for half an hour, and they spent the last 2 quarters throwing up all over themselves, doing everything they could to let the Bucks back into the game, and they actually did it, and they got bailed out by Cooper Kupp, who had a number of his own mistakes in the game, which was very sort of strange. And the Bucks just kind of, falling asleep for a little bit at the most important part of the game. But that was ridiculous.
I'd like to say I was surprised by it, but You weren't really. I mean, you couldn't have. We said it multiple times. Rams have screwed us over in the lock shop in a few spots where they should not have done that this year. So I'm watching that happen. The thing that was driving me crazy, and I've said it about Tom Brady, despise him when he was with the Pats, come around to him a bit and his attitude with the Bucks. But we've seen that so many times in Tom Brady's career where, he's not always just shooting the lights out. Like, things have helped him along the way so many times. And I'm looking on Twitter and people are like, Brady's going to do it again. Brady's going to do it again. I'm like, Brady ain't doing shit. Like, do you see what the Rams are doing right now? Like, they're fumbling the ball to them. They're still getting there. They're still sacking them. They're still causing issues. They just kept putting this game on a platter. Brady hits Evans on the one deep shot, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, here we go. So it didn't surprise me at all that the Rams gave it away. And the Rams gave it away more than the Bucks came and took it back. But then for Matthew Stafford to hit Cooper Kupp twice, and on the second one, I'm sitting there watching with the family, and my wife knows I'm a huge Stafford guy, and I can't believe what happened. Like, of all the players in the league in this season to not allow get in behind your defense, Cooper Kupp would be that guy. They bring the pressure on Stafford, cover zero, he goes deep. I'm standing up, jumping in front of the TV, I'm pulling the Stafford. I'm like, get down the field and clock it, get down the field and clock it. And they did. I didn't think you could top that. And then you get the final 2 minutes of the next game, and it was the greatest day of football I've ever seen, regardless of the league, with 2 games like that back to back. That was nuts. Just nuts.
I hate to say it, but it's a pretty much guaranteed that this Sunday is going to be very anticlimactic as opposed to what we had. and we knew the super wild card weekend wasn't very super, other than the fact that we had extra games. I mean, they weren't really close. The extra teams that came into the playoffs were embarrassed. But man, that divisional round every single year is the best weekend of football. And that might have been, honest to God, the best 4 games as part of a group in NFL history. So the Bengals are still standing, going up against the Chiefs. I think that one opened up at about 7. And I'm absolutely fascinated by this Rams-Niner game. I mean, we talked about it going into Week 18. The Niners own the Rams. They've won 6 straight. Kyle Shanahan somehow is in Sean McVay's head. And if the Rams were able to hold on to a lead, a 17-point lead, the Niners wouldn't even be in the playoffs right now. It would have been the Saints. So this is fascinating. And of course, I did mention on the lock shop towards the end of the season, I did get in on the Niners to win the NFC at 10-1. So already, even before making a wager between the Niners NFC bet and the Chiefs Super Bowl bet, and we sort of bought low on them. It's shaping up to be a fun couple weeks, I'll tell you that much.
Just a quick look ahead there to AFC Nfc Championship lines, and we'll see how much movement. I don't know how much movement there's going to be, actually, to be honest with you. But the Chiefs are a 7-point favorite, obviously, at home. And the Rams, you mentioned 3.5. And the way you laid it out against the Niners, I'm going to have a hard time swallowing that extra half for sure with the Rams at 3.5. Like, I'm looking at it right now, and I'm looking at it going, this damn book wants us to be on the Niners this week by giving us that extra hook right now. And, I mean, the Bengals-Chiefs game, I don't know which way I'm going to go on that. It's tough to imagine Patrick Mahomes being stopped at any moment. But at the same time, Joe Burrow threw for over 440 yards last time he played the Chiefs. So I really like both these lines right now. It's very intriguing. It's going to give us a lot to think about this week.
Well, the funny thing is, I don't think they want to move the line itself, but I'm looking at CoolBet right now. And if you want the Niners at 3.5, you're laying minus 125. If you like the Rams, I mean, you're getting more than even money on that. I mean, if we click the game, let's just see here. So you can get to 2.5, and the 2.5 for the Rams is minus 143, and the Niners plus 121. It hasn't ended up right on that 3 number, but don't be surprised if 3 is sort of essentially where it ends up. And what an opportunity for the Rams. I mean, despite everything that they almost did, home game against their arch rivals to both finally beat them and get into the Super Bowl, which, oh, by the way, is also in their home stadium.
It would be incredible. The weird thing with the Niners is that Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't have to throw a touchdown for them to win. He's 3-0 in the playoffs without throwing a touchdown, and he's 9-2 in his career when he doesn't throw a touchdown. It's unbelievable that they're at their best when he does nothing. It makes no sense to me.
I mean, Jimmy, listen, he did what he had to do just to kind of stay in the game and not completely screw it up on Saturday night. I think Shanahan knew very well that this was going to be a low-scoring, tight game that was going to be about position and, frankly, not about making mistakes. And listen, if you're Matt LaFleur, you're a cheesehead right now, a Packer fan, and you think about how great that team is, Aaron Rodgers, the defense, and how their 32nd ranked special teams ended up being the Achilles heel that cost them the season. We talk all the time about, in fantasy, and especially when we're talking CFL, we make so much of offense and defense, and people consistently overlook special teams. And Saturday, to me, special teams was the story. That's the reason why the Packers blew it and why the Niners live on. And I'll tell you what, there was a lot of people that were making fun of the Cincinnati Bengals when they drafted a kicker in the 5th round.
Yeah.
And let me tell you one thing, that 5th round selection on one Evan McPherson looks like a pretty damn good pick today. He is nails. Apparently, Dusty, they got the ball back at the end, and they all of a sudden have this chance, and there's a timeout, and he sits there and calmly just says to the guys on the bench, "Well, guys, I guess we're going to the AFC Championship game." Walks out, kicks the field goal, gets out of there, a winner. It was amazing.
Boss move.
Huge disappointment for Tennessee, though. Wow.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've talked a lot about what Jimmy Garoppolo hasn't been doing. He's lucky he's on a team where he hasn't had to do it. Ryan Tannehill, you can't start the game with a pick and end the game with a pick and expect that you're going to win. And listen, Derrick Henry's great, but I think it was a bit much to expect that he was just going to come in and save the day and turn back to the 2,000-yard rusher after being out for all that time. So I thought Mike Vrabel did a great job this year with his team, but if you sack a quarterback 9 times and lose, you got to be looking in the mirror going, what the hell did we do wrong?
Yeah,
How
that's
did
a great
we blow
point.
that?
I don't know if you saw the one image pop up on Twitter, and it was some soldiers kind of hiding around a corner with their guns. They're all in their camo, and it said, ready for this weekend, Burrow, Garoppolo, Stafford, and Mahomes. And there was 3 soldiers and one guy dressed as a clown holding like a toy gun. And it was Jimmy Garoppolo. I was just like, oh, here we go. So it's going to be a fun week in the meme world on Twitter for sure as we get set for that. But we're really looking forward to that. Of course, if you've not yet signed up for an account, cool, but use the bonus code LOCKSHOP if you want to come along for the ride. We'll have another partner parlay, obviously, this weekend, and we'll give you our official picks for AFC Nfc Championship weekend on Friday, but we've been rolling red hot right now. If you are watching on the live stream, subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Just search the Lock Shop on all your podcasting platforms. We're going to get to some picks for the Farmers Insurance Open. Huss has got some plays for the Australian Open, might even dabble in some Concacaf World Cup qualifying here. At least take a look at that match and some of the numbers on it. But let's start with the National Hockey League tonight. Huss, what'd you think of the slate? Like, was this an easy group of games to come to, or what?
I'm going to be honest with you. I have not thought for 1 second about hockey or the National Football League since the Jets and the Penguins finished that game on Sunday afternoon, and I immediately went in. And I would be listen, since the end of the game, I was out watching it with some friends. This is Sunday night. I went back home. I rewatched it for about another 3 hours over and over again. Yesterday, I was in this dot. I did the show. I watched every bit of NFL Live and PTI and stuff. And now, last night, I was putting together the picks. And I'm like, ooh, we got a big hockey game tonight here in Winnipeg. The Jets taking on the Florida Panthers. The Oilers back in action. So I've refreshed myself with that other league, the National Hockey League, that usually preoccupies us most of our time right now. And I got 3 picks coming in. I see the blue lines have moved a little bit since I got in on them last night. But first up, we're going to go with the Dallas Stars. Now, the Stars are in New Jersey. New Jersey is just simply not very good right now. Dallas, after playing, listen, they went on, I think, they lost 4 of 5. They are taking their road trip through the JV division of the National Hockey League. You get the Sabres, squeak out a 5-4 win against Buffalo. You squeak out a 5-4 win against Detroit. You go to Philly and give them their 12th consecutive loss. What the hell's happened in Philadelphia? That's another wild conversation. And now you get the Devils. So, I mean, I really do think that the Dallas Stars are one of those hot and cold teams, but they're kind of heating up right now, and they're doing it against the also-rans of the National Hockey League. When I saw that number at minus 125, even with playing yesterday, jumped on it. It's now minus 135 for the game. As far as the other game, and it's another one that's gone up a little bit since I bet it last night, is the Nashville Predators taking on the Seattle Kraken. Hey, the Kraken are probably going to have put, much like the Flames did before the Panthers trip to the Oilers, which resulted in a 6-0 game. I don't think the Kraken did the Jets any favors with that regulation win over the Panthers a couple nights ago before their visit here to Winnipeg tonight. But, to me, listen, we saw Nashville last week. They looked really good. I was low on Nashville. I mean, I thought that they were basically hamstrung by 2 terrible contracts to Duchesne and Ryan Johansson. 8-year, $8 million each. The last couple seasons have been miserable for those guys. We saw them in game 2 of the season here in Winnipeg. They stunk. They gave up 6 goals. We were like, okay, we're not worrying about those guys this season. Well, actually, we are. And they are, I mean, they're a very, very difficult team to beat. And UC Saros, the way he's playing right now, is one of the best goaltenders in the league. So, against a team that's had a real tough time stringing any consecutive victories together all season long, I will take the Predators on the road. And then for my final selection, I'm actually going to take a total. I'm quite interested in this Canuck Oiler game. And you can speak to the Oilers a little bit more after that big win on Saturday night to at least let the fan base just breathe for a minute and enjoy a weekend without obsessing over where the season's gone. But we've talked a lot about the Oilers, the goaltending. Not sure what the Demko situation is right now. I really do think that the Oilers are going to score, and we can usually count on them giving a few up. So I'm going to jump on the over 6.5 at that game. Last night, that number was minus 106. So put those 3 picks together. When I parlayed them last night, it was plus 470. Let me just stick them back on it right now. It's going to be down a little bit because we have moved the lines. 428 right now on that parlay. But those are the numbers I got in last night. Going to take the 2 numbers. I'm very tempted to jump on the Jets, to be honest, as much as I said that the Florida is going to be.
I was wondering what your take was going to be on that game. Yeah.
You know what? This is like the Jets need to be playing with this real sense of urgency right now. I mean, they've got a real tough schedule coming up. We've talked a lot about where the month of February, is going to be with all of these games. And, unfortunately for Winnipeg, the losses at home to Arizona and to Buffalo, I mean, blowing a game against Vancouver they should have had. I mean, you can pretty much look just at this point of the season at about 8, 9, 10 points that have completely been left on the table. And those can really, I mean, if we're talking about a very tight playoff race, that can be the difference between getting in and being out. So Connor Hellebuck spoke to it after the game in Pittsburgh. I mean, this is a team that has to be playing desperate and urgent. I think they know full well the challenge of the team coming in tonight. So I know there's all the narrative about, first came back after a road trip. Listen, the Jets can't handle any excuses right now. They got to go out there, play their best. And even playing their best, I'm not sure it's good enough to beat Florida, but they got to give themselves a chance. And, Hellebuck was great on Sunday with the exception of a gaffe that very few goalies will make. Unfortunately, he does. And it basically turned a 2-0 lead into a 2-2 game in 9 seconds. So I do think that he will bounce back and he'll be ready to go for this game tonight. So at plus 140 as a home underdog, I actually might do a sprinkle, but I didn't want to put that in or certainly parlay it with any of the other picks. I felt a little safer with the ones that I made, but well, considering the extra change in the account after the football weekend, we may be throwing a dart on the Jets and see what happens. Where are you going tonight?
Well, I'm not going to parlay these 3 picks because it's a little bit of a weird board to what I usually do, but I like it. The Arizona Coyotes are an absolute train wreck. They've lost their last 2 games by at least 4 goals. The Pittsburgh Penguins are a wagon on the other side of it. I mean, they've won 8 of their last 10. They're playing extremely well. In order to get any value on this thing, you got to stretch it a little bit. And I don't think we've ever gone on the lock shop and said, I'll take so-and-so minus 2.5. But last week I hit with a minus 3.5, not on the lock shop, but in that Panthers-Oilers game. So the only way Arizona keeps their games close is when their goaltenders stand on their head. Like, that's it. Every time Arizona wins a game, you're like, wow, incredible performance by this guy. I wonder if they trade him for anything. Like, that's pretty much what happens. So I'm going to go Pittsburgh at home, -2.5. That'll get you +110 tonight. Vegas coming off a 1-0 shutout against the Washington Capitals last night. They're in the back-to-backs. So Carolina to get, and even this number's moved a bit. When I locked it in last night, it was -115 in regulation. Now I think it's something like -130. So money coming in on the Carolina Hurricanes. But I'll take Carolina in regulation tonight against Vegas on a back-to-back. And then I'm going to go with Connor McDavid to finally score a goal. He hasn't scored in quite some time. You get it at +106. I remember early in the season when him and Draisaitl were lighting the world on fire, a McDavid goal was like -200. Now you're getting it at +106. So I'll take plus money on Connor McDavid, who, the saying, he's due right now. That's not something that I believe for a lot of players in the league, but for the top end guys, it's just a matter of time until he gets one. He couple of assists in that last game against Calgary, had a few really good bursts, just couldn't finish. I think he's all around it for a goal right now. Probably be a power play goal if it does happen tonight. Vancouver actually somehow is miraculously pretty good in 5-on-5 goals against. But I'll go Connor McDavid scores tonight with the rare +106 number on it, Huss.
Yeah, that's wild. I had to laugh at the Arizona-Pittsburgh line. And you know what? That's not even close to the biggest line that we've had so far this year. I had to ask. I put out an email to Chris last week. The Habs were in Colorado, and the Avalanche were on the money line -588. And I just simply said, is this the biggest money line number in NHL history? I mean, have we ever, since the company has been in business, has there ever been a bigger line than that? And it was the same sort of thing. I mean, just to get to around even money, you needed to get to -2.5. So it's weird. I'll say this: Jet fans and Leaf fans know the guy that the Oilers should have been going after all year long is Karl Vamelka, the magician. In Arizona. He's unconfirmed right now. He's expected to start against Pittsburgh, so maybe he can stand on his head. No one knew who he was at the beginning of the season. He didn't even have his picture in the NHL.com. And he had a 46-save shutout here in Winnipeg against the Jets. The Jets then went to Arizona, played a hell of a game, put up 49 shots on him, won the game, but only were able to score twice on the guy. And then we saw what he did to the Leafs, and everyone's like, oh, we've never heard of this guy. Yeah, well, maybe because no one pays attention to what's happening in the West, east of the 401. I digress. Vamelka is, and I'm not really sure, he's still a relatively young goalie, but I guess we should get odds on whether Ken Holland will get a goalie and who that goalie will be.
Before the deadline, yeah, we should do that, actually, yeah. Yeah, we'll request that of Chris Abbott.
Hey, just quickly on the show Monday morning, I mean, because they did get a win against Calgary, one that they needed so badly, did the Oilers get shortchanged because everyone was just so in shock about the NFL? You guys talk football all morning, and when they finally won a game, the Oilers didn't get the love that they probably would normally get.
You know what was weird is that I was like, oh, man, we're going to get ripped for going so heavy on NFL this morning. But nobody cared. Everybody was just loving the NFL talk because the entire sporting world was sucked into those two games on Sunday. So it was a free pass, I guess. Yeah, now, if they would have lost, it would have been a different story.
Yeah. Open up the phones.
Yeah, exactly.
1260. Here we go.
Yeah. All right, so there you go. There's our hockey plays tonight. Huss is on Preds money line, Dallas money line, Edmonton, Vancouver over 6.5, -106. You can parlay that one as well. And I'm going with Pittsburgh -2.5, Carolina -115 in regulation, and Connor McDavid +106 to score a goal. You mentioned that Montreal-Colorado game. That went to overtime. That was the game that went to overtime.
Was it? I knew it was a minimum. It was a 1 or 2 goal game. I mean, and yeah, I couldn't remember the result. And needless to say, as a guy that likes underdogs, I wasn't laying the -588 money line on it or anything like that. But it is weird. Sometimes you have these massive mismatches, and it's human nature for teams to think that they're basically having an AHL team come in and expect to win, and maybe you don't do some of the things that you normally do. But it'll be an interesting slate tonight. I know you'll be paying attention to that late game between the Canucks and Oilers. And we here in Winnipeg, unfortunately, only 250 fans in the building. What a joke. But anyways, hopefully that changes coming up in the next week or so when we get our new round of restrictions. And maybe we'll be able to get back to the rink.
All right, Farmers Insurance Open. That's where we head on the PGA Tour this week, and I'm already up. I had it at plus 200 that Huss takes Tony Finau this week. So I'm already up. I'm already laughing. With that being said, you beat me to him because, I mean, this is that Tony Finau week, right?
This is, I mean, after winning the BMW this year, I mean, I really think that Finau's got a number of wins. So don't be surprised. If we're going to a course where my guy Tony has a nice course history and has been in the mix, I'm probably taking him. And the Farmers Insurance Open at Torrey Pines was at the top of the list. He finished tied for second last year. He's been consistently contending in this event, and his game really, I think really plays well to what Torrey Pines is on both of the courses. So, when you look at what Tony's done so far, I mean, he's one of the top players in the world. If he's driving the ball well, he drives it, even he nukes it. I mean, just about as far as anyone not named Bryson DeChambeau, and he still's got that nice deft touch. And, you got to be able to putt. I mean, I don't know if you saw that clip of John Rahm on the weekend, not pleased that the American Express tournament had turned into a bleeping putting contest, but great. They need him mic'd up a little bit more. I cannot wait for this PGA Netflix show, by the way. I'm going to get Netflix specifically just so I can watch this show. And we got a lot of really good guys in it, but yeah, 29-1 for Finau. I mean, I would have loved, the fact of the matter is that there is a lot of really good players in this, in this tournament. I mean,
great field.
I'll tell you what, I had a hard time not looking long and hard at Dustin Johnson, who's now 22-1. And now he hasn't played forever, but you've seen DJ come back from long layoffs and, top tens, no problem. Hideki's been arguably the best player this year. He's at 22 right now. And then you got Xander and Schauffele. I mean, the Rahm is the big beast at the top of the board. He's at 750. He played last week. He's playing very well, and this is a place where he has dominated in the past. So I understand why he's what it is. And JT at minus 14-1 was an interesting number. But I was going further down the board. Tony Finau, 29-1, first pick, my favorite pick. Then I went to Will Zalatoris. And Zalatoris was a top 10 here last year. And at this point, we were sort of starting to realize, holy smokes, this guy is contending each and every week. And, at the time, he didn't even have a PGA Tour card. Now, of course, he's a full-fledged member of the tour. But he's been playing a few more events. I believe he's coming off back-to-back top 10s right now. So he's been in the mix. And you just see the talent that this guy has. It just seems like it's a matter of time before he's going to bust into the winner's circle. So 34-1, to be honest, I think it speaks to just how well he's been playing and his history over the past year. The fact that he's sitting there tied with Brooks Koepka. I couldn't believe there was a 34 on Brooks. It was almost hard not to pull the trigger on that, but you can trust me, there'll be plenty of B Koepkas in my picks over the course of this year. I'm going to wait it off. But anyway, Zalatoris is right there and at 34-1. I just think the way he's trending right now, it was worth a spot. And then for a long bomb is Jason Day at 99-1. And this has nothing to do with recent form or anything, but he has been incredible at Torrey Pines. He's a two-time champ. He's come close on a number of other occasions. And you know how it is with sometimes these veteran players. It doesn't matter what they've been doing. It doesn't matter, where they've been playing recently, if they've been off. Sometimes they just come back to places where they have great success and they start feeling it. So, certainly this isn't going to be a huge bet, but at basically 100-1 for a guy with his pedigree and the 2 wins at Torrey Pines was pretty hard not to look at it. And just as a note, I sent these picks to you last night just before we came on. This is very interesting. I don't know whether this means I'm Johnny Q Public or what, but BetMGM had the list of the, what they've taken money on, who their top picks were and all that. Their 3 biggest liabilities, Finau, Zalatoris, and Day. So
come on.
I couldn't see it. BetMGM's right now, their top 3 liabilities are the 3 guys I sent to you last night. So hopefully it'll be a miserable day for BetMGM when it comes to the Farmers Open. That much I can say.
My picks, you mentioned Hideki. He's at 22-1. maybe the guy who's been the best so far this season. Didn't play last week after obviously taking his game to another level prior to that. At the Farmers, he's 6 for 8. T3 in 2019. He's got 3 top 20s, so he's playing extremely well. He's had success here in the past. So at 22-1, I like that number. And you mentioned there's such a good field that you're going to get some pretty good numbers on these guys. I almost put Scotty Scheffler in again. I almost went back-to-back weeks with Scotty Scheffler. I was this close, and I was like, yeah, and you know what? Probably now, maybe he gets it done because I was this close to going on him again. But I moved away from Scotty Scheffler. I couldn't get away from Leash, though. It happened again. He's at 39-1. This guy he's always in the mix at Torrey Pines since he's been playing it for over a decade now. In 13 trips, he obviously won in 2020. He's finished as a runner-up twice. He's got 2 other top 10s, another pair of top 20s. Like half the time he's played this course, he's finished in the top 20, and you're getting him at 39-1. Does he make it 2 wins in the last 3 years? I don't know. That seemed like a little bit of a stretch, but at 39-1 for a guy who's played here so often and has done well consistently, I like it at 39-1. And then I'm going to go with Molinari as well. He's 99-1, very much like your Jason Day pick. And this is not a guy who's been playing great as of late. He did prior to last week. T6 last week. That was big. Prior to that, in the last year, or at least 11 months, his best finish was T13 at Torrey Pines in the U.S. Open. And he was also top 10 at this event last year as well. So, I mean, this is a track that he has had almost his only success at in the last 12 months. So at 99-1, maybe he's able to finally put it all together and hang on this time. So, yeah, Molinari at 99-1, Leishman at 39-1, and Hideki at 22-1 would be my 3 plays this week.
You know, it's funny you bring up Francesco Molinari because, we're now into year 2 of the Lock Shop. We started about 13 months ago, and this might be the first time he's ever been picked in the golf picks, which is even crazier, Dusty, because in 2019, he was dominating right up until the back 9 at Augusta, when he sort of blew it. Tiger Woods goes and wins the Masters. And then, I mean, it just fell apart for him. So it's great to see him come back with a nice performance last week. He's a fun guy to have on tour, an incredible player that has done some amazing things so far. Ryder Cup legend along with Tommy Fleetwood. So I was pumped to see him actually get some love on the Lock Shop. And I might even, just to support Molinari, put a little sprinkle on him at 99-1, but I couldn't get away from Jay Day considering. But we're talking about horses for courses. Both of these guys have done very well at Torrey Pines, and maybe they'll wake up and have a huge weekend coming up beginning on Thursday, get to the weekend, and then make something happen on Sunday.
There you go. Picks for the Farmers Insurance. We got some Aussie Open. Huss, you still running a steady train of parlays or what?
Yeah, well, see, the parlays more are sort of for the first few rounds.
That's
because
true,
there's so many games you can pick and choose. I mean, right now you really sort of need to run the table. And to be honest, although, I mean, on the women's side, we've still got, 3 pretty heavy favorites in these final quarterfinal matches. Or I guess Ash Barty's already moved through. She beat Jessica Pegula. Wow, tough 24 hours for the Pegula family. First, what happened to the Bills? And then Jess gets knocked out in the quarters. Although great run for her. She wasn't seeded in the top 8. So,
and in general, owning the Buffalo Sabres. That one stings too.
The Sabres. It's never any good days right now when you're talking about the hockey side of the operation. But anyways, Ash Barty and Madison Keys are now into the final. Barty, the Aussie, heavy favorite at -114. But I like Iga Swiatek, the Pole. And former, I believe, French Open champion, got on her. She was 13-1 heading into the tournament. I believe she's the 9 seed. And she's going up this Kanepi, who was an unseeded player who's had some nice wins, but some really, really close wins, like going the distance. He had a deep tiebreaker in her last game to make it through. So I like Swiatek. The numbers come down a little bit. When I looked at it, she was into the -400 something. But I'm going to go with the game spread. I just think that this is Kanepi meeting a much better player at the wrong time. -4.5 games. And that number is actually down. I think it was minus 140 something yesterday. It's minus 133 right now. But the game I'm most looking forward to, in addition to our guy Felix Auger-Aliassime. Now, it's pretty hard to come out and say, hey, Felix is going to win. I mean, I'll be cheering for him. I want him to win. But he's going up against the class of the tournament right now, and that's Russian Daniil Medvedev. I mean, Medvedev's a minus 714 favorite. It might be fun, though, just to toss a little sprinkle down on Felix, plus 550. Shapo was in the nearly 5-1 range, and of course lost the first two sets last night, 1-3 and 4, and then just wasn't able to over Rafa Nadal in the fifth. So going fourth, it's interesting numbers. Jannik Sinner from Italy is minus 137. He's the 11th seed against, I want to say, the 4th seed, the Greek Stefanos Tsitsipas, and yet he is the favorite. I was kind of trying to wonder, like, okay, this doesn't really make sense, at least as far as the seeding goes. But you look back at what Sinner's done this season, he has been just taking down top player after top player, one of the fastest rising stars on the tour. And you know what? Tsitsipas, honestly, is sort of a fun guy to go against, too. So I'm going to take the Italian at minus 137, and I may very well pop him in and parlay it with the spread bet on Swiatek. But, listen, minus 137, the over's 40.5 on it. Wouldn't be surprised if that hit over. I could see this being a long match. But we're going to go with that. The minus 137 on Sinner, and maybe a little sprinkle on our guy Felix to see if he can make some magic happen against Medvedev. Plus 550.
Nothing like a miracle overnight. You wake up in the morning and your account's laughing. You see a Canadian win and you cash in a few bucks as well at plus 5 or whatever it was.
I will say there is no better feeling than during the Aussie Open week. You kind of wake up, you grab the iPad or whatever, you log in, and you just look at that total, because at a certain point, you literally can't stay up all night. And, especially earlier in the rounds, if you're betting a 4 or 5 gamer, oh, good, I got 2 in, I got 3 in. And then you'll know right away. You look at that top corner and know if that number's changed at all or whether it is where you left it. So anyway, it's been a great tournament so far, even without Novak Djokovic. Hopefully, I know lots of Canadians will be tuned in. I guess it's 12:30 our time, probably 1:30 in the morning your time for Auger-Aliassime and Daniil Medvedev tonight.
All right, before we wrap up, and you got Winnipeg Sports Talk coming up, we'll preview that in just a second. Back on the Concacaf World Cup qualifying train here with some huge games. Canada, Honduras, no Alphonso Davies. Canada plus 110 on Thursday to win, plus 225 for a draw. Honduras plus 275 as the underdog. And I'll get to some totals in a second. I mean, it's basically set at 2 right now, and it'd be minus 132 over 2. I think the smart play might be over 1.5, and that's paying minus 222. So I don't really love the value on it, but I like the 1.5. Huss, a couple days away here, but any early thoughts on this one?
Well, I mean, this is a game Canada needs. I mean, straight up. I mean, they put themselves in a position where they are in the driver's seat to be in those top 3 and, to be in the World Cup for the first time since 86 or whatever the year is. It sucks that Alphonso Davies is not going to be able to participate in this tournament or this event, I should say, in this qualifying window with the 3 matches. But I'll tell you what, there's Jonathan David, there's Tajon Buchanan. I mean, there's a number of players on this squad that are proving that, they can be stars themselves. We owe Honduras one as well for one of the most embarrassing moments in Canadian soccer history from a previous World Cup qualifier. It ended up in, I believe, an 8-1 matchup that haunts many. But all of that sort of seems to be in the past. I mean, this is a new generation of Canadian players that are doing things that we simply haven't seen maybe ever before. So I'm going to ride with Canada. Get the win. Get out of there with 3 points and then get back to Hamilton on Sunday to take on the Americans. I don't know who the hell was scheduling these games to have it right in the middle of Championship Sunday with the National Football League. I mean, I know there's not a lot. Idea. Like if you, I mean, the soccer people are going to be paying attention to it for sure. But if you want this, as it should be, to become something that everyone is watching and everyone is paying attention to, don't put it head to head against the AFC and the NFC Championship games. Anyways, that was just an editorial. So yeah, I'm just going to throw a little sprinkle on plus 110 for Canada to get it done. And right now, what's interesting, the Thursday game or the Sunday game, which literally kicks off at the same time as the Chiefs and Bengals, 5 minutes later, Canada to win at home plus 210, a draws plus 225, USA plus 140. I think I'll go with the draw in that game. And a draw would be fine for Canada. If you can get a draw, against the United States, they'll be in a very, very good position. But they might be a more desperate team if they don't get the result in Honduras. So not to look ahead of the opponents. We'll focus on Thursday night, plus 110, Canada, Honduras, and then see if they can squeeze out a point in Hamilton at Tim Hortons Field. First event at that game since a certain team won back-to-back Grey Cups.
Which was phenomenal being there. You should have made that trip, buddy. That would have been a good one. All right, Winnipeg Sports Talk. What do you got coming up today, man?
Oh, you know what? Our old pal Joe Pascucci, who was the man here for so many years, doing Winnipeg Jets and local sports, is now out east. But he's got the greatest vault of old NHL Winnipeg Jets highlight footage, and every time they're playing a team, he'll crank out some old highlights, but also follows the team very closely. So we'll talk some Jets, we'll talk some Bombers with Scooch. Jack Han, very interesting hockey mind, put together a book on systems, coaching, and has broken down all the teams in the NHL. We're going to get his take on what's going on with the Winnipeg Jets. I'm looking forward to that. And then the head coach of the Winnipeg Ice, James Patrick, is going to join us. They've got a young goalie that just set a WHL record for the longest streak without a regulation loss to begin a WHL career. But the bottom line is, with all these restrictions, they've only played like 5 games in the last month. So we're going to talk about the path forward for the Ice, who are right now a big-time WHL and Memorial Cup contender. And, we'll hit the cool bet lines for tonight, have a little bit of fun, and then get ready for these hockey games tonight. And then, of course, Friday, Dusty. Friday. We got some more picks to make. Can we stay hot? It'll be interesting to see if we're on the same sides or going head-to-head again this weekend. But I'll tell you what, it's been a great run so far, and I cannot wait to see Joe Burrow come into Arrowhead to take on Pat Mahomes. And I'm fascinated about this NFC Championship game because, neither of those teams really looked Super Bowl ready, if you will, last weekend. One of them is going there, so we'll find out who on Sunday.
Should be great. Once again, thank you very much for watching The Lock Shop or listening to The Lock Shop. If you download the podcast, we appreciate it. Sign up for an account at CoolBet using the bonus code LOCKSHOP. You get hooked up with a bonus when you sign up. For Hustler, I am Nielsen. Be ready for Friday. It's going to be a great episode. We will talk to you then. See you later, Hus.